3. So it talks about the books of accounts that we've examined for the purpose of knowing what all transactions, what all expenses would be allowed and disallowed. The ones which would be allowed would be only which are made by account pay check or bank draft. And even though several other methods have been included, plastic money and electric payments as well was later on included. Till date, account pay checks remain with the banks. They have not, account pay checks do not lie with the clients. So there is no way as an auditor we can know whether XYZ payment has been made by an account pay check or not. There are many a times the institute has tried writing to RBI made by writing to RBI that payment has been made by account pay check or not. However, the same is
Push,
not
you're
being done
not audible. Voice is cracking, Push.
right now. So it is always an issue, yet department expects this whether made account check or not. So tracking. Hello.
Yes,
Can't hear you properly, Push. Voice crack कर रहा है. Yeah, but I think he's probably joining back.
Okay.
Yeah. Anupya is also joined. Good evening, Anupya.
Good evening, Sanjeev, Priyank.
Good evening, Anubhya.
Good evening, Dayas.
पुष्पदीप rejoin कर लिया है.
Hello, Pusp. How are you?
Am I audible?
Your voice is cracking, Pusp.
Hello.
Yeah, Push.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Right.
audible. Better.
You're perfectly audible now.
Okay. So as I was talking about section 48.3, even though account pay checks do not remain with the clients, even then the income tax department wants us to report on the same, whether any payment has been made by account pay checks or not. So institute has tried multiple times to write to RBI to mandate that in the account statement, it specifically be mentioned that such and such payment has been made by account pay checks or not. However, it has been to no avail. Therefore, it has always been an issue how to put this forth. As I had discussed in the previous session, that we must always put in our qualifications where we are unsure, and we should always take MRL. Here, the importance of qualifications would is emphasized that we put in a qualification wherein the same could not be checked via by the auditor, because account pay checks are not do not remain with the client. Secondly, if a photocopy of a check, of an account pay check, remains with the client, can the same be taken as an audit evidence? Like, is that enough to prove that the payment has been made by an account pay check? I think, in my opinion, no, because checks can always be a bearer check and thereafter be cancelled later on, thereafter be crossed later on. So that can always be an issue. So it is always recommended that a relevant qualification be made here in this particular point of reporting.
Push,
Moving
can you
on.
share your screen?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on. 48. So moving on to point clause number G, particulars of liability of a contingent nature. this has to be
Push-
provided by the client. Hello.
What is the difference between point number A and B?
Point number A and point number B.
Yeah, 21A and B. DAB. Not down.
Okay.
40A3 and 43A.
This one, yeah. 48.3, read with rule 6EE.
40A3 and
40A3A.
A3A.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not very sure about this, Bhaiya. If someone from the forum could answer on this, could take it.
Push, can you just take the screen a little, point number A?
Yeah.
So far I know regarding the difference between 40A3 and 40A3A.
Yeah.
That, suppose I have incurred an expenditure in the financial year 18-19, and that same has been paid in the year 19-20. So
Yeah.
basically the expenditure is debited in profit and loss account in the year 18-19 and
Correct.
paying in cash in excess of limit prescribed under section 40A3. So it was not covered under section 40A3, but it is covered under section 40A3A. This is the basic difference between A and B.
Okay. So payment made in excess of 10,000 rupees.
Yeah. The
Okay.
basic difference between these two subsection is regarding one is the expenditure debit in the same financial year and expenditure done in the same financial year. And
Right.
the second point is the expenditure is booked in the books of accounts in the previous financial years, and you are making the payment of that expenditure to the creditors in cash in excess of 10,000 rupees in the next financial years. This is the basic difference between A and B.
All right. Okay. So moving on.
Others view, is it correct?
What do others think on this?
Ashish Bhai is there, Sanjay Bhai is there,
Basically, it is in respect of the liabilities
Right.
which was of the previous year and which has been paid during the year.
करेक्ट लॉजिक इसका क्या था ना आशीष जी, जैसे अगर 48.3 में कोई एक्सपेंडिचर को अपने डिसअलाउड करते हैं तो उसका प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट में डेबिट होना जरूरी होता है.
राइट.
लेकिन अगर अपने लायबिलिटी बुक करके रखे हैं तो वो पिछले साल में बुक किया हुआ था, इस साल में तो उसका एक्सपेंडिचर आया, तो उसका अगर मान लीजिए क्रेडिटर का अगर हम पेमेंट करते हैं तो उसको 48.3A में कवर करता है.
राइट एब्सोल्युटली,
है ना?
हाँ जी.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So moving on, point clause number G, subclause G, wherein particulars of any liability of contingent nature have to be provided. Yeah. So these disclosures have to also be obtained from the client of whether there is any nature of contingent liability of the assessee, and again, now moving on to clause H.
Push, just 1 second. I'll just add on over here. So this liability of contingent nature it does not necessarily have to be income tax, right? It can be anything. जैसे excise हो सकता है, VAT हो सकता है, current regime में GST हो सकता है, whatever liabilities of a contingent nature जो अपने audit report में भी report करते हैं, and I think notes of accounts में भी जाता है, right? कि these are the pending cases जिसमें एक liability बन सकता है. Everything will be reported, right? यहाँ पे ये तो कहीं नहीं बोला कि खाली इनकम टैक्स का मेरे को रिपोर्ट करना है.
करेक्ट
राइट ना? ठीक है,
सही, करेक्ट. So moving on to clause number H, subclause H. Herein it talks about deductions which are inadmissible under section 14A. Now I feel that under this clause, under this particular subclause, this is somehow it is becoming irrelevant as we are moving ahead in time, because most of the exemptions against which these expenses were disallowed, these exemptions are also getting removed one by one. For instance, when we talk about section 1038, wherein
capital gain,
right,
LTCG, yeah,
LTCG, and thereafter even dividend which used to be exempt in the hand of the recipient under section 1034 is now no more exempt. It would be taxable as per the normal tax slabs of the recipient. So I feel moving on ahead in the future, I believe subclause H would slowly become irrelevant. The importance of this subclause is slowly fading away, is what I feel.
But then, in case of a company, if it's a partner in a firm, and which is having, like, for example, it is receiving the share of profit.
That
as a
remains
part-
there. Yeah,
that remains there. So in that case, we have to compute as per 14A, na?
correct.
That is what is being done, na, presently also by.
Right. The partner share of
आशीष जी
profit
की
which
बात
is
से मैं सहमत हूं क्योंकि दिस सेक्शन 14 हेडिंग इटसेल्फ सेज एक्सपेंडिचर इन रिलेशन टू एग्जेम्प्ट इनकम
Any exempt income.
एग्जाम्पल। तो आशीष जी यू आर राइट, अपने को उसमें 14A का कंपटीशन करना होगा। वी नीड टू मेक कंपटीशन ऑफ 14A एंड देन इफ एनी डिसअलाउंसेस आर देयर दैट नीड टू बी रिपोर्टेड हियर। But Push, what you are saying is, yes, the broader things like dividend and all, those were earlier exempt, now those are not exempt. So we used to focus on exempt income of dividend more earlier, which is not there currently. So that point is correct.
right. Now, moving on, clause 22, which talks about interest inadmissible under section 23 of the MSME Act. So, as per the MSME Act, there's a provision under the MSME Act of section 22 of the MSME Act itself, which requires that if a buyer has unpaid debt, unpaid creditors, which are MSME and which are unpaid for more than 45 days, interest is leviable, and such interest cannot be deduction for such interest cannot be provided under the Income Tax Act. So first thing to keep in mind is, if no interest has been debited in the PNL account, no disallowance for such expense debited would be done, because if there is no expense, there is no disallowance. That is the first thing to be kept in mind. Secondly, here our importance increases because if there is any interest of such nature which has been debited due to late payment to any party, our qualification here is very important, because the definition of MSME has been enlarged via notification, and it has been made such that I believe 80% of the entities in India which are conducting businesses fall under the definition of MSME. So we have to be very careful while we report on this. We have to, if there is any interest expense which has been debited in PNL, we have to keep in mind that there could be some disallowance, and we have to give relevant qualifications for this, wherein if we cannot determine if the party is an MSME or not, for whom such interest has been debited.
Push, in this point, so the party needs to be a registered MSME, right? I mean,
Correct.
It needs to be registered mandatorily, right?
Correct.
And we can only get that through a MRL, that, you know, if a party is registered or not, and, you know, I mean, that is the only way, correct? Or is there any other way out?
Right. So as an auditor, we could go to an extent wherein we could make a letter to so that those parties themselves verify that they are MSMEs. However, this is not very practical, I feel, because on a practical aspect, on a practical level, we only have to we have to keep in mind what is our responsibility. We only have to talk about the interest which is inadmissible under so and so section of the MSME Act. So if we know,
इसमें इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट क्या है, मैं बीच में इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ।
हाँ भैया,
अपने को जो ब्रेकअप देना पड़ता है ना स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिट करते समय में कंपनीज का, वहां पे भी अपने कोई एमएसएमई का अगर आउटस्टैंडिंग तो सेपरेटली डिस्क्लोज करना होता है।
राइट।
तो वो डिस्क्लोजर के साथ में भी उसको रिकंसाइल कर सकते हैं। और इसमें सेकेंड एक एडिशन मेरे साइड से क्या रह सकता है कि जैसे इसमें जीएसटी का भी एक इम्प्लीकेशन आता है। अगर अपने कोई एमएसएमई को 100 किसी भी पार्टी को अदर देन एमएसएमई भी वो कवर होता है, हालांकि 180 डेज से ज्यादा का अगर पेमेंट आउटस्टैंडिंग है तो उसका इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट जो अपने लिए हैं वो भी एक रिवर्सल का क्वेश्चन आता है। तो यहाँ पे कोई भी इंटरेस्ट अगर अपने रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं ना, तो एक बार जीएसटी भी एग्जामिन कर लेना चाहिए साथ साथ।
हाँ भैया, बट एमएसएमई का रिपोर्टिंग इज फॉर डेटर्स ना, और क्रेडिटर्स।
इंटरेस्ट तो अपने क्रेडिटर को पेमेंट करेंगे ना,
इंटरेस्ट तो क्रेडिटर को पेमेंट करेंगे, बट जो डेटर्स की रिपोर्टिंग में वी हैव टू रिपोर्ट ना कि सो एंड सो पार्टीज आर एमएसएमई एंड सो एंड सो पार्टीज आर नॉट एमएसएमई।
नहीं, क्रेडिटर्स की रिपोर्टिंग
करते हैं।
ओके, राइट।
दैट इज नॉट ऑन डेटर्स, दैट इज ऑन क्रेडिटर्स।
ओके,
मेरे को एक चीज बताइए कि जैसे ये इसी से रिलेटेड है, अगर समझ लीजिए कि ट्रेड टर्म्स में ये स्पेसिफाई कर दे कोई कि भी मेरा ये टर्म्स है 90 डेज का या 100 डेज का, in that case, as far as balance sheet is concerned, or for that matter tax audit is concerned, what is the liability of the auditor, or for that matter the tax auditor? लाइक अगर ट्रेड टर्म्स में ही लिखा हुआ है कि बिल में लिखा हुआ है कि हमारा पेमेंट 90 डेज में होगा, in that case whether it overrides this provisions of the act or does it not override it?
मेरे हिसाब से यहाँ पे जो बात हो रही है, यहाँ पे बात हो रही है कि इंटरेस्ट अगर आपने पीएल में डेबिट किया है, अगर आपका ट्रेड टर्म है तो नेचुरली आपने इंटरेस्ट डेबिट भी नहीं किया होगा।
राइट,
इंटरेस्ट अगर डेबिट किया है तब ये क्वेश्चन आ रहा है कि अपने को डिसअलाउड करना है।
नहीं, लेकिन ये चीज बताइए तो बैलेंस शीट के पर्पस में क्या एज एन ऑडिटर क्या करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए उसमें, क्योंकि अगर ट्रेड टर्म्स में अगर हो ऐसा तो
आप मतलब ये टैक्स ऑडिट हटा करके अपने स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिट की बात कर रहे हैं क्या, कंपनीज ऑडिट की?
हाँ, कंपनीज ऑडिट की।
कंपनी ऑडिट में जहां तक मेरा नॉलेज है कि सेक्शन 23 जो मैंडेट है एमएसएमई एक्ट का, आपका ट्रेड टर्म्स कुछ भी हो, आपको पेमेंट 15 डेज में करना पड़ता है।
45 डेज। हाँ
ठीक,
15 प्लस 30, दो स्लैब है।
हाँ 15, हाँ ठीक है।
15 डेज प्लस 45, दो स्लैब है।
ओके
15 डेज अगर नहीं करते हैं तो अपने को 45 डेज तक इंटरेस्ट का अलाउड है। उसके बाद पेनल प्रोविजन स्टार्ट होता है, सो फॉर आई रिमेंबर एमएसएमई में।
45 डेज है ना, मैं 45 डेज के बाद मतलब ऐसा थोड़े कि मेरे को 15 दिन के अंदर पेमेंट करना है। 45 डेज तक कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं लगता है, 45 के बाद में 18% इंटरेस्ट लगता है ना।
एक बार इसको चेक करना प्रियंक, ये 15 डेज जहां तक मेरे को याद आ रहा है कि 15 डेज की लिमिट है, 45 डेज तक विद इंटरेस्ट है, उसके बाद पेनल प्रोविजन स्टार्ट हो जाता है।
एक बार चेक करना पड़ेगा।
ये एक बार देख लेना, वो देखना चाहिए। बाकी और कोई ग्रुप का मतलब अपने कोई पे कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं इस व्यू पे?
आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल दी पार्टिसिपेंट्स, आपका कोई भी व्यू है प्लीज शेयर, बिकॉज जितना शेयर करेंगे अपना उतना ही नॉलेज बढ़ेगा। सो इट्स एन अर्नेस्ट रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑल ऑफ यू।
Take the next point.
Okay, Vio. So moving on, the next point. So there are other specific points which I feel is not so relevant for the discussion, not very relevant for the discussion. I would move on to clause 26. So yeah. So herein it says ki clause 26 में we have to talk about those expenses which were not paid before.
एक मिनट में इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ मैं।
हाँ
हेलो।
हाँ प्रमोद, यस प्लीज।
हेलो।
मेरे
ख्याल से सेक्शन 23 टाइप करता है पैनल जो
आपका आवाज नहीं आ रहा।
डिलेड पेमेंट टू माइक्रो एंड स्मॉल। हेलो,
ये आपका वॉइस क्रैक कर रहा है।
टेबल है ना टू एमएसएमई को फॉर डिलेड पेमेंट। हेलो हेलो हेलो, एक मिनट,
ये आवाज क्रैक कर रही है प्रमोद भैया।
हेलो
हेलो, मैं चैट बॉक्स में।
ओके ओके
ओके ओके ठीक है। सो मूविंग ऑन, अच्छा, I missed one clause 23 which I feel is also important. Particular of payment made to specified persons. Here specified persons is are related parties. So as per circular 143 of dated 20th August 1974, the circular of the department itself says that that the auditor can rely on assessee's information, which can be taken as a proper disclosure. Therefore, here we do not have to get into in depth and investigate if. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
वॉइस क्रैक कर रहा है पुष्प।
Yes, you are audible now, Push.
Okay. Yeah. So circular 143 of dated 20th August of 1974 itself says that the auditor can rely upon the assessee's disclosure given of the related parties. Therefore, this, and as well as we can also rely on our statutory audit report. Hello. So moving on to clause number 26 now. So section 43B, which talks about what kind of deductions would be available to an assessee, and suppose those deductions which are available only on cash basis. So I have a peculiar case, a peculiar example, wherein say we are conducting an audit before the return filing date under section 139(1). So till date, जो छोटे clients है, for smaller clients, we can maybe pause the audit and get them to clear all the payments which are due, and thereafter we can complete our audit. However, for a client wherein we have a particular date, wherein we have a particular deadline wherein we have to complete our audit, our tax audit, and yet there are some payments which have not been made till the date of audit. However, the auditee says that the payment would be made within the date as specified under section 139(1). What should be the role of an auditor here? I feel that here again there's a necessary there's this importance of qualification again, that we have to mention कि since the audit was conducted at such and such date, which was before the due date of furnishing of return under section 139(1), hence this much amount is not allowable until paid. Which I think this point also we sometimes miss. We wait for the clients for making such payments. If in a hurry, we can always put in this qualification and file our tax audit reports. Now moving on. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, clause number 28. Regarding
point 27, yeah.
Regarding clause 27, here the clause 27 still mentions the amount of SENVAT credit availed during the year, and neither the tax audit form, and I believe not even the utility has been updated for by being changed to GST credits or GST input tax credit. So I feel we should keep in mind the idea behind behind such clause, behind the intention of the act, and we have to put in wherein we have to put in our GST credit amount which has been availed. However, I think because we had a different view on this.
Point number 27, na?
27.
Yeah, bolo.
Regarding SENVAT credit.
Bolo.
So I feel कि भैया since it mentions SENVAT credit, we going strictly by reading the requirement, the reporting requirement is limited to SENVAT credit. However, आज के दिन में SENVAT GST credit would be more relevant in today's times.
नहीं, तो इसके साथ में अपने को एक चीज ये देखना चाहिए, तुम जो बता रहे हो फॉर्म में इन लोगों ने अभी तक SENVAT क्रेडिट लेके चला है, लेकिन यूटिलिटी चेक करो वहां पे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट दे दिया है,
राइट,
और अपने सर्टिफाई कर रहे हैं इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट को ही. तो या तो अपने को अगर 27A में अगर कुछ नहीं डालना है तो अपने को 3CA 3CB इज द केस में भी एक अपने को ऑब्जर्वेशन डाल देना चाहिए,
राइट,
मेंशनिंग द कंट्राडिक्शन बिटवीन फॉर्म एंड दिस यूटिलिटी, और या फिर अपने को फिगर डालना चाहिए. संजय दा,
या फिर अपने को
संजय दा काइंडली शेयर योर व्यू ऑन दिस पॉइंट. संजय दा, कैन यू हियर अस? अनुभ्या,
संजय दा प्लीज अनम्यूट. नो,
शायद सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं.
अनुभ्या, आपका क्या ओपिनियन है? व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
What was the question? I didn't follow that. Will you please repeat?
Yes, Sanjay da. Sanjay da, point number 27, clause A, it says about the amount.
Because my mind was diverted for some time. Yes.
Okay, I am repeating the question, Sanjay da. Question is point number 27, clause A, amount of SENVAT value added tax credit availed or utilized during the previous year. It is given in the actual rule form. But when we are seeing the utility, the word SENVAT value added tax. Hello. Am I audible?
Form 3CD, please tell which number?
Point 27, Sanjay da, 27A and B.
27A, to be very precise.
Yes, yes.
The question is, Sanjay da,
When
can you hear us? Hello.
Sanjay, we can't hear you. Your voice is cracking. We can't hear you.
Sanjay da, you are not audible.
Send me
Sanjay da, you are not audible. Sanjay da, you are not audible. Anubhya. Push.
Yeah, hello. I
हाँ
can hear
संजय
you.
हाँ संजय दा का वॉइस नहीं आ रही है सही से.
हाँ, उनका शायद इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी.
हाँ, इंटरकनेक्शन का इशू, इंटरनेट कनेक्ट.
I think Nilima ma'am भी कुछ अगर inputs दे सके तो she is also there. So ma'am, if you could contribute, what do you think? What is your opinion on this?
Ashish ji, kindly unmute yourself.
Questions from the members of the critical GST committee. So we will have another meeting to highlight the topics.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
हाँ दीदी.
I think again, because there is a difference in the form and the utility which is there, we must mention it. And whatever you are filling here, I think you can give it in the note, whichever way you take it.
Yes, yes. That means you mean to say that whatever we are taking the stand, whether we are reporting or not reporting, that is still given in 3C and 3CB, as the case may be.
Yes.
And we are reporting at the basis of reporting, we need to report.
We need to report, yes.
One more question here.
So there it is, whether it is as per your accounts or whether it is as per the...
Yes, as per the GST return.
Yeah, yes. So that also you must give.
Yes, and what is the good stand? What will be the good stand? Whether we should go for with the accounts or with the GST returns?
I think because you can take it both ways. Some client says, "Nahi, aap aisa kar dijiye," but if there is a difference, obviously you are going to mention that difference.
Okay, but
that is what we are normally doing. If there is any difference between both, agar dono same hai, tab to it doesn't make a difference. But only when there is a difference, does this question arise. So then I think we should mention it.
Ma'am, practically difference तो होना ही है. Most of the time, match होता है. हाँ, most of the time difference तो होता ही है.
रहता ही है. So that we mention normally in all our reports, we mention in that note there आगे में कि this is the difference.
But ma'am, एक point ये भी है कि यहाँ पे जब the word availed is mentioned over here. The avail is only in the GST language, not in the books of accounts.
Yes, not in the books of accounts. That is true. That is true.
So why not we go? And the second thing is this figure will be helpful while doing the GST audit. If you are giving the figure of the books of accounts, it will be a little mismatch with the electronic credit ledger.
Yes, actually this year there is too much of emphasis now on GST. Earlier though there was no this thing, but up say yes, as you are saying, this is correct. So whichever way, if we are giving all GST figures, whatever we are doing, we must mention it that figures here have been taken as per GST. Returns.
जो portal में मांगा है, what is required in the portal is that what is your opening balances, what is amount of which you have availed during the year and utilized during the year, and what is the closing balance. Correct. So basically what they are asking is that how much credit is available and how much you are utilizing, and what is the differential treatment. So what we are doing generally is that we are doing as per books of accounts only, because the last part of the clause is requiring what is the treatment in the accounts for that. So we are giving it as per the books of accounts only.
But Ashish ji, at the same time, जो treatment in the books of accounts की अपने जो discussion कर रहे हैं, that is already covered under section 145 capital A.
Just because
145A में specifically ये बोला गया कि भाई आपका sales में include है कि नहीं, purchase में include है कि नहीं, आपके balance sheet में आप closing में stock में उसमें ले रहे हो कि नहीं ले रहे हो. यहाँ पे basically what they are saying is that whether you are expensing it off with profit loss account, like for example, if any client is writing it off in the books of accounts and claiming it as an expenditure, the credit which he is availing and which is basically जो उसके balance में carry forward है. So what they require is that nobody should write it off in the books of accounts unless and until you are not allowed to take the credit of it.
नहीं, उसमें आशीष जी देखिए, अपने जब उसको फॉर्म को यूटिलिटी को देखते हैं ना, तो वहां पे ओपनिंग स्टॉक पूछता, ओपनिंग बैलेंस पूछता है, अवेल पूछता है, यूटिलाइज पूछता है, क्लोजिंग पूछता है। और राइट में वहां पे एक टैब बना हुआ है, वहां पे अपने लोगों को चारों आइटम का ये बताना पड़ेगा कि अपने प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में ट्रीटमेंट क्या करना है।
राइट।
तो टेक्निकली अगर अपने देखे हैं तो ये अपने 145 कैपिटल ये कोई इनडायरेक्ट वे में उसको हिट कर रहा है वो, क्योंकि आप अगर उसको वहां पे अगर, क्योंकि अपने तो इंक्लूसिव मेथड तो फॉलो करते नहीं है नॉर्मली, अपने तो एक्सक्लूसिव मेथड फॉलो करते हैं, तो इन एनी वे दैट पर्सन इज नेवर क्रेडिटेड और डेबिटेड टू द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट।
लेकिन सर अगर मैं अपने जीएसटी के रिटर्न से फिगर्स दूंगा तो जीएसटी का तो अपने जीएसटी ऑडिट होता है।
हाँ।
तो आज समझ लीजिए हम यहाँ पे जब टैक्स ऑडिट में इनकम टैक्स का जब ऑडिट करेंगे जो कि ये, तो उसमें फिर हम लोग जो जीएसटी का क्रेडिट रिटर्न्स का फिगर्स अगर देंगे तो वो तो इन एनी केस बहुत वॉलेटाइल रहता है, क्योंकि आज समझ लीजिए जो क्रेडिट आपके पास में अवेल रहेगा, जो मतलब समझ लीजिए आप जिसका अवेलेबल है, हो सकता है कि कल जब आपका वो कोई पोर्टल में देखेगा तो अवेलेबल ही नहीं रहेगा, क्योंकि कोई सामने वाला रिवाइज कर दिया अपना रिटर्न।
नहीं, रिवाइज करने से इसका कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं आएगा, आप टेक्निकली समझो इसको। ये मेरे हिसाब से क्या है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर को हम लोगों को निकालना पड़ेगा, और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर का अप्रैल महीना का जो ओपनिंग बैलेंस है वो लेना पड़ेगा। ड्यूरिंग द ईयर जितना डेबिट हुआ है वहां पे वो हमारा अवेल हो गया, सॉरी जो क्रेडिट हुआ मेरा अवेल हो गया, जो डेबिट हुआ है वो मेरा यूटिलाइज हो गया, और क्लोजिंग बैलेंस जो बचा वो मेरा वहां पे क्लोजिंग बैलेंस में रिपोर्ट होगा।
So, आप बोलना चाह रहे हो कि हमको जीएसटी के पोर्टल से इसको बनाना चाहिए?
यस, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर से, टू बी स्पेसिफिक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर से।
अच्छा,
तो उसके पीछे मेरा क्या लॉजिक नजर आता है मेरे को, क्योंकि देखिए अपने जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो एक अपना इंस्टीट्यूट जो ट्रेनिंग देती है ना, उसमें जो ऑडिट मैनुअल है स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को ट्रेनिंग का, उसमें भी ये पॉइंट का रेफरेंस दिया हुआ है कि 27A को चेक करिए, इससे आपका जीएसटी मिलता है कि नहीं मिलता है।
इसे जीएसटी का रिटर्न से मिला करके आपका क्रॉस चेक होगा, लेकिन जब रिपोर्टिंग वाला पार्ट रहेगा तो एज एन टैक्स ऑडिटर वेदर वी शुड स्टिक टू द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स, वेदर यू शुड स्टिक टू द जीएसटी का पोर्टल, बिकॉज़ वो जीएसटी का तो इटसेल्फ एक ऑडिट होता है जिसका भी रिक्वायर्ड रहता है।
नहीं तो अपना बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स का पार्ट तो अपना है ही, अदर रिलेवेंट डॉक्यूमेंट तो मानेंगे ना अपने जीएसटी के जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं।
हाँ, बिल्कुल मानेंगे।
तो अगर सोचिए अपने ईएसआई पीएफ का रिपोर्ट करते हैं तो सारे चालान देखना, उनका रिटर्न्स देखना, उसको वेरीफाई करके अपने ईएसआई पीएफ को रिपोर्ट करते हैं ना।
Sir, I would like to add one point here. Like GST audit is not for all segments of assessees. Like tax audit तो 1 CR के अब मान लीजिए आ रहा है, फिर अगर सर्विस प्रोवाइडर 50 लाख, पर GST का ऑडिट का अभी तो जैसे 5 CR का रखा है उन्होंने, तो वैसे ही ऑप्शनल है। So maybe they are trying to bring into ambit those assessees also who are not subject to GST audit but subject to tax audit. And in that case, those assessees must ensure that there is reconciliation of their GST ledger with their books of accounts. I think there is some connection we can draw from here.
So what's your view ki that whether we should go for the electronic credit ledger balance or with the books of accounts?
We should follow electronic credit ledger balance.
Electronic credit ledger balance. As because the user availed.
Availed, yes. Availed is also mentioned. That is one key aspect. Apart from that, books in the case of books of accounts, there could be certain maybe entries that the client has maybe inadvertently omitted to do so. But yes. GST ledger is something that will provide the basis of information for furnishing a 27A. So my views, maybe those assessees who are not subject to GST audit and tax audit, but tax audit, for them this clause will be very much pertinent. Yes. However, we have an option of not reporting also. Maybe we can give a remark that there is contradictory views as per the form and as per the utility. That is separate aspect. But then yes, we should follow the credit ledger.
Because at the second time, when we have the guidance note on the accounting treatment on the books of accounts in respect of GST by the ICI also, and that also refers that books of accounts draw as per the electronic credit ledger. So if the books of accounts is already containing the transaction recorded in the 3B through the electronic credit ledger, then we can follow the books of account that will be matched with the electronic credit as well. So far my understanding. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yeah.
ये भी एक व्यू है आशीष जी.
हाँ सर.
देन 3 व्यू निकल के आए हैं अपने, अगर उसको एक बार सम अप करते हैं. पहला है कि अपने अगर मतलब रिपोर्ट नहीं करना चाहते हैं तो 3CA 3CB में एक अपने रिमार्क्स दे करके गो अहेड कर सकते हैं. सेकंड है कि अपने बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स का फिगर भी डाल सकते हैं. थर्ड है कि अपना इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर का बैलेंस डाल सकते हैं. जो वे भी ले रहे हैं मेरे को लगता है 3CA 3CB में उसका एक रिमार्क्स डालना चाहिए.
नोट कर लेना चाहिए, मेरे को डॉक्यूमेंट कर लेना चाहिए कि हाँ ठीक है, दिस इज द बेसिस ऑन व्हिच वी पुट इन द फिगर्स.
Yes,
Uh,
please
Move
push.
ahead, I think.
Yes, please go ahead.
Moving on, clause 28, which talks about whether during the previous year the SFC has received.
Push, sorry to interrupt. Can we just discuss on 27B also? I mean, what could be the connection between 27A and 27B? They have mentioned 27B as particulars of income of prior period or expenditure of prior period. But what connection will it have with point number A, 27A? So are they trying to draw a nexus between 27A and 27B? What are the views? What are
Shivangji,
yes.
Shivangji, please go ahead with this point difference between 27A and 27B. What's your
Actually,
view?
my question here is like why have they put the 27B as something like prior period income or expenditure with a point which is related to input tax credit? Are they trying to draw a nexus? What could be the reason?
I think, in my view, like at the time when excise was a indirect tax, because we used to show it as in addition to sales, and then we used to reduce it from sales in profit and loss. Probably this is something which could hold meaning here. 27B could have held meaning back then. I don't think it is very relevant now. And anyway, guidance note as well as accounting standards do not recommend using inclusive method of accounting. We have to use exclusive method of accounting. So I think 27B does not hold a lot of value now.
But is there a nexus between 27A and 27B? Because they have put it under the same
Shivangji,
clause if you also 27.
Shivangji, please share your view whether there is really any nexus between A and B.
Well, what I can figure out possibly here is at times what happens is a particular income or expenditure has not been routed to the PL. Let's say for example, a particular expenditure has been incurred. The taxpayer has treated that expenditure as let's say a current asset which they would like to maybe claim in the subsequent year. Expenditure has been incurred on the March end, maybe possibly the 30th March, but the taxpayer has maybe claimed that expenditure in the next financial year. But input tax credit has been availed in the same year. So possibly this could be one nexus that I can draw. Or maybe similar way we can have the income also, that the income has been treated as an advance possibly. So I mean, this is something what we can consider. However, this is open to views.
So is it basically what you're trying to say, prepaid expenses or something of that sort? That
Either prepaid expense or
KFC.
income and that connection with the input tax credit, because they have put it under the same clause. So possibly they are hinting at some nexus between A and B.
Basically, he want to put a nexus in line with the cash system and mercantile system, because input tax credit is allowed on the basis of cash system, whereas in case of books of accounts or income tax is going ahead with the mercantile system. The differential between GST and income tax he wants to draw over here, right?
What are the views? I mean, this could be. I mean, this is something I would like to hear the views from the members. Like, given that same clause, they have put A and B, so possibly there is some link that we are missing out on. So this is something we can consider.
Anubhya, are you here? Anup Sangai ji.
Yeah, Bhaiya is there.
संजय दास सुन नहीं पा रहे लगता है.
PD भैया भी है, प्रमोद भैया भी है. प्रमोद भैया can throw light on this.
मेरे लगता है उनको म्यूट कर रखे हैं. इसको एक बार पॉइंट लो ना प्रियंक. ये पॉइंट को अपने को और फर्दर डिस्कशन करना चाहिए आई थिंक.
ठीक है.
क्योंकि ऐसे अपरेंटली ए और बी में मतलब कोई रिलेशन लग नहीं रहा है, लेकिन बस सिंस इट इज गिवन इन द सेम क्लाउज देन थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट हो रहा है कि ये फिर सेम क्लाउज में क्यों रखा. अगर अलग मतलब कोई नेक्सस है क्या रियली, या सिर्फ रख दिया.
करेक्ट.
यस प्रिया.
हाँ भैया. So
go ahead.
Moving on, clause 28 talks about whether a company, an assessee has received shares of a company which is closely held. and without consideration, which is without consideration for or for inadequate consideration. Here the assessee is only, it only means either LLP or firm or a closely held company. Here the assessee, the assessee would only mean company, closely held company, firm or LLP, which is as per 56(2)(7)(a). And now moving on, I feel other clauses which are 29, 29A, 29B, and 30 are very specific clauses. If someone wants to take it up, we can take it up and open it to the forum. I would move on to clause 31, which is very interesting in particular.
Push just 1 second. 28. You mentioned assessee means a company, LLP, or
a closely held company or a firm or LLP.
Why? I mean, this assessee you're talking about, right? Whether during the previous year the assessee has received. Why?
Right.
Why only these three?
Because this assessee would be read with section 56(2)(7)(a), wherein 56(2)(7)(a) has distinctly mentioned these assessees.
That's
if we refer to section 56(2)(7)(a), I'll just open it up.
So for other assessees, we can blankly write this as not applicable.
Yeah, for other assessees, this section would not be applicable.
Okay.
This particular clause 28.
Okay.
I'll show it to you later.
That's okay. It's fine. Yeah. We can move ahead.
So moving on I'm skipping a few clauses here. If we want, we can take it up, but I'm moving on to a specific clause which is of particular interest to me, which is clause 31. And its sub clauses are thereafter. So clause 31 talks about section 269 SS, and thereafter there are other clauses which are section 269 ST and 269 T. So I have a few examples.
Can you move to point 31? Push in the screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So section so clause 31 talks about section 269 SS, and thereafter what follows is section 269 ST, and thereafter 269 T. So I have a few examples here how this is a very dangerous section, and how sometimes we are ignoring certain facts here. Suppose I'm taking an example. Suppose an assessee took rupees 3 lakh in loan, and 3.36 lakh was repaid with interest, but all of it was in cash. Let's read now let us read the impact section 269 SS could have, and what would be our reporting responsibilities here, wherein we have to talk about loans or deposits exceeding such limit which was taken or accepted during the year. So section 269 SS talks about loan or deposit taken. So here when 3 lakhs were taken in cash, we have to give a reporting here in section 269 SS clause 30A. And thereafter, when we move on to repayment, when the repayment was made in cash, section 269T would be triggered. Section 269T talks about repayment of loans in cash. I'll just move on to that page here. So it talks about each repayment or loan or deposit or specified sum which was made exceeding such limit in section 269T. Now let us read what are the liabilities, like who is liable when violating such sections. Who would be liable? And when we are talking about our liabilities, these liabilities fall under section 271D, DA, and E. So 100% of penalty is leviable. So for section 269 SS, it is on person who takes or accepts such loan. He is liable to pay 100% of such amount. Fine, that is all right. Now moving on, section 271E. Section 271E talks about loan repayment when we have triggered section 269T. That is when repayment was made in cash of exceeding rupees 20,000, then on repayment 100% of such amount will be liable. Who will be liable? The person who repays. So in both the cases, so suppose I took 3 lakh rupees in loan and I repaid 3.36 lakh rupees back with interest, I'll be liable to pay 3 lakh rupees under section 271D and 3 lakh rupees under section 271E. So my penalty would in fact be 6 lakh rupees for taking a loan of 3 lakhs in cash. And this is just the two sections that I mentioned. When we move on, section 269 ST, let us read section 269 ST. I'll move on to the face of the.
Push, the limit is 10,000 rupees, right?
I think for this section it's still 20,000.
20,000, okay.
And now moving on, so let us read 269 ST, wherein each receipt is taken in exceeding the amount for a particular transaction or a particular day or a particular on a particular occasion. Now this 3 lakhs which I took and I repaid again, so I violated section 269 ST because here the amount is 2 lakh rupees. For section 269 ST the amount is 2 lakh rupees. Herein I have violated section 271DA. When we go to section 271DA, just a second. Yeah. So when we are talking about failure to comply with provision of 269 ST, where a person receives such amount, who would be liable to pay? Again, the person who has received. So in effect, when I have taken a loan of 3 lakh rupees and repaid 3.36 lakhs with interest, I am liable to pay penalty of 100% under 3 sections, which is section 271D, 271DA, and 271E. Now, moving on, section 2, when we read 269 ST, let us read 269 ST together. When we move to section 269 ST, here it talks about no person shall receive an amount of 2 lakhs or more in aggregate from a person in case or in respect of a single transaction or relating to an event. All right. Now we are pausing for here. I'll give you an example wherein inadvertently we might fall under section 269 ST. Let us say a partner introduced capital of rupees 2.5 lakhs in his partnership firm in cash. His sources of income are all well justified, and he is showing that amount which is being received as capital in his partnership account. Is section 269 ST being triggered? I believe inadvertently, yes, it is being triggered. Of course, there is a proviso, of course, wherein we can obviously later on, if we can prove that it was for justified use, or there was some certain conditions wherein we could not have made the payment otherwise, 269 ST is triggered. Moving on, so again, such a partner who has justified source of income, who's introducing capital in his partnership account, he'll be liable to pay 100% of that amount under section 271DA for deposit of capital in cash. I'll give you another example. Suppose a farmer is selling his agricultural produce. Agricultural income is 100% exempt, and he receives that amount in cash for say 3 lakh rupees of agricultural produce which has been sold. Is section 269 ST again triggered? Because again, this is no person shall receive. It talks about a person, so all the persons are covered, and it is on receipt of 2 lakh or more. So a farmer whose 100% income is agricultural income, which is 100% exempt, he still has to pay penalty under because he has triggered section 269 ST. But now, so these are a few examples wherein it is very dangerous wherein a person might inadvertently fall under these sections, and we might not notice. We might have even ignored. Now, what I have a few other points to make under this section. Let us go to section 269 SS. Now, 269 SS, an amendment was made in section 269 SS wherein any specified sum was included. Where let us read the section where no person shall take or accept from any other person, herein referred to as the depositor, any loan or deposit or any specified sum, otherwise than by an account pay check or account pay bank draft. When we go on to the explanation and we read any specified person, what does any specified sum mean? Sorry. So specified sum means any money receivable, whether as advance or otherwise. Very good. So now let us assume that suppose I am a builder and I have received a property advance, an advance for some property for any consideration which was exceeding 20,000 rupees in cash. Since it talks about specified sum, since herein a specified sum has been mentioned, and specified sum talks about any advance in relation to transfer of an immovable property, whether or not transfer takes place. So transfer has not yet taken place, and I have received an advance for a flat. Will this fall? Will section 269 SS be triggered? Will I have to pay 100% of, say, say I have complied with all of the compliances that I had to, but I have received, say, 50 lakh rupees in cash. Section 269 SS in my view is still triggered. Suppose now I had received advance. Now moving on to next example, suppose I had received 1 crore. I had sold the property and I had received 1 crore. I have the party has deposited TDS under section 194 IAIB, and the PAN copy has been shown at registrar, and circle rate has been considered for 50C, and everything is all right. All the compliances have been made. Capital account deposit scheme, and in that the amount has been deposited for the due date. However, I have received 1 crore rupees in cash for the property which I have sold. Will section 269 SS be triggered? I believe yes, 269 SS will be triggered, because here it says whether as an advance or otherwise. When we are talking about, when we are reading this or otherwise in my view is for sale and not as an advance. Therefore, I believe these things have to be really kept in mind and read minutely when such an amendment was brought in. So we have to keep in mind these things and then move forward in our reporting. Moving on.
Yeah, here I want to ask something.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi. This section is triggered. 269 SS is triggered in case the person receives. Okay. What about the person? If our client is the person who is paying, any section is triggered if he pays in cash?
Yes, ma'am. I think section 269 ST would be triggered. Sorry, section 269 T would be triggered. Just a second. Here again, when we talk about, here again, any specified sum has been mentioned. Any specified advance has been mentioned when we are talking about repayment.
But it is loan or deposit. And so loan, in case of purchase of property, if we pay in cash, so the payer is anywhere triggered. If the payer is paying in cash, that part is anywhere triggered?
Yes, ma'am. Here it says when we move to specified sums, it means any sum in the nature of advance by whatever name called in relation to transfer of immovable property, whether or not transfer has taken place.
But here otherwise is not written, in nature of advance or otherwise is not written.
So the payer will be covered. It's actually required a reporting in tax audit if we can be go to form 3CD once.
Yeah.
In one of the clauses, we are required to report, even in case we making payment in violation to section ST. If you all can check the
Clause
BC, can just go down B, C, and BD. Clause B, C, and BD.
Yeah.
Each payment. So payment is covered here. So receipt is also covered in BA and BB, and payment is covered in BC and BD. So payment is also.
But 216 ST clearly excludes 216 ST and T transactions. 216 ST is independent section. It doesn't cover.
It is an independent section. The question which ma'am has raised is that in case I'm making payment, let's say 2.5 lakhs, let's say 2.5 lakhs payment I've made. So 2.5 lakhs payment will also be covered into an ST. I mean that violation is also there.
No, but then
as per 216 ST in that case.
But 216 ST is in relation to receipt where you're receiving in cash above 2 lakhs. That is for the recipient.
Recipient.
Those transactions with the recipient now. Ma'am's question is in respect of to payment. So basically, when I suppose, for example, I'm purchasing a property, I'm making a payment of 2.5 lakh rupees in cash. So the person who is receiving, that person is going to be bound because he will be violated in terms of 216 SS.
Yes.
But as far as the payment is concerned, I don't think so. 216 T will come into the picture, but
no. In that case, let's say in your example, 2.5 lakhs payment has been made, so that payment will be covered in tax audit report for that payer also. If that payer is liable to tax audit, 216 ST governs that section, given that particular transaction. Payment they are also asking to report. Recipient is getting penalized. That is a separate aspect. Recipient tax audit will also get this part will get reported. But for the payer also, they are asking you to report.
What is the view of the forum here? What do others think here?
I think 216 AC it will be covered because you need to mention payment, and each transaction is a separate transaction. It does not make any relation to the amount that I have received. It does not say repayment. I think it just says payment, right? So if I'm paying anything, I have to report over here. Vikas Bhaiya?
Yes, Priyank.
Yeah, what are your opinions on this? What are your thoughts?
Actually, में sound थोड़ा मेरा क्रैक हो रहा था. फिर से repeat करो.
Okay. So Shivank, can you just reiterate?
Okay, so the question that was raised is, for example, Mr. X makes a payment of 2.5 lakhs for purchasing a property, purchasing an immovable property, makes 2.5 lakhs payment to Mr. Y. X has paid 2.5 lakhs for purchasing immovable property to Mr. Y. In that case, what will be the implication under 216 ST?
Whether it will be covered or not, whether it will be reported or it is not required to be reported.
The reporting angle we are also discussing. So this is the question which we are discussing on.
आशीष जी, what's your view?
आशीष भाई के हिसाब से नहीं होना चाहिए. आशीष भाई के हिसाब से रिपोर्ट नहीं होना चाहिए.
क्योंकि सिंगल ट्रांजैक्शन कवर नहीं कर रहा है इसलिए ना.
नहीं सर, मेरा कहने का मतलब है ये बेसिकली इज इन टर्म्स ऑफ 216 ST का रिपोर्टिंग है वेयर व्हिच इज इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ 216 ST इज फॉर द रेसिपिएंट. कि भाई आपको अगर कोई कैश में पेमेंट, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर रिसीवर, सो द पर्सन हु इज रिसीविंग द कैश फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ द, समझ लीजिए फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी और समथिंग, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी रिपोर्टेड बिकॉज़ 216 ST excludes 216 SS. So 216 SS में वो basically क्या हुआ कि where you are receiving up in terms of the property, because 216 SS covers the specified sum right now. So that means कि where you are receiving in advance in cash of 2 lakh rupees, you have to required to be reported in 216 SS. That is what I understand. And then in terms of 216 ST, that is in terms of the any other transaction other than those which are not covered in 216 SS.
इंडिपेंडेंट है, इंडिपेंडेंट वो उसके साथ लिंकअप नहीं है, इसका एक्सक्लूसिव है.
इनका जो व्यू है वो ये है कि आप जो पेमेंट जो कर रहा है, जो पर्सन पेमेंट कर रहा है, उसका ऑडिटर विल बी रिपोर्टिंग हियर.
वो क्यों
रिपोर्ट करेगा? पेमेंट कर रहा है उसका ऑडिटर विल बी रिपोर्टिंग इन 216 ST.
if you all can see the clause B, C and clause B, D, it is clearly stating that particulars of each payment made in an amount exceeding the limit of 2% XT in an aggregate
So
to a
payment in respect of a single transaction, respect of relating in aggregate to a person, मतलब payment जो एक person को मिल रहा है in terms of 269 ST. So basically that means कि तो जो भी ये reporting हो रहा है, that is for the recipient. मैम का question है in terms of the person who's making the payment, उसको कहीं report करना है.
Recipient is covered in clause BA and BB. Recipient is already covered in BA, BB. B, C and BD is also for the payer. वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ. तो फिर B, C and BD will become redundant.
वो तो फिर in that case कि फिर 40 अगर सब पर लीजिए for example है कि अभी तो capital asset के लिए भी 40A3 apply करेगा. Even for a capital asset 40A3 applies. So there also he is supposed to report. So that means that reporting will be in both the section 40A3 में भी reporting होगा और 40 ST में भी reporting होगा.
नहीं आशीष जी, आपका व्यू एकदम मेरे को सही लग रहा है, क्योंकि देखिए अपना 269 ST का जो हेडिंग है ना, वो भी क्लियर बोलता है कि नो पर्सन शैल रिसीव एन अमाउंट ऑफ 2 लाख रुपीज और मोर. तो अब जहाँ पे रिसीव वर्ड को यहाँ पे एम्फेसिस कर रहा है, तो फॉर्म में अगर पेमेंट भी लिखा हुआ है तो वो रिसीव की ही बात कर रहा है वो.
हाँ, मेरा तो ये
हाँ, एसटी भाई आप पेमेंट वर्ड चेंज करने से कलर ऑफ द ट्रांजैक्शन कैन नॉट बी चेंज ना,
क्योंकि 40A3 में तो वो रिपोर्ट करेगा ही वैसे भी. अगर वो कोई पेमेंट हुआ है कैपिटल एसेट के लिए तो 40A3 में उसको रिपोर्टिंग करना ही पड़ेगा इन एनी केस.
और सपोज करो अपने अगर
if you take that, then what is the purpose of clause B, C and BD then? What will be the
purpose of B, C and BD is in respect of practically in the sale transaction which is other than the property. Like if in case that is where you are taking any, suppose जैसे इन्होंने बोला कि पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म में कैपिटल इंट्रोडक्शन हो गया, या फॉर दैट मैटर आपका समझ लीजिए आपने कोई सेल किया मटेरियल, उसका आपको कैश में पैसा मिल रहा है, तो वो सारे ट्रांजैक्शंस यहाँ पे रिपोर्ट करने पड़ेंगे.
फॉर एग्जांपल पेमेंट को लेकर ही बात करूं तो लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल मिस्टर एक्स मेक्स अ पेमेंट फॉर परचेज ऑफ गुड्स,
राइट,
to Mr. Y 2.5 lakhs.
Right.
Payment is made in cash, single transaction. So are we supposed to report here in BC?
Yes, absolutely we are supposed to report in BC.
Okay, so the view is that clause BC and BD would be for other than property.
Yeah, practically because in any case the property is getting covered in the 269 SS and T. 269 SS because T to is basically in repayment.
Okay, B, C and BD will be reporting in case of other than immovable property. For example, let's say in case of goods only for that matter.
Sanjay ji can clarify because this is a very important section and it is practically applicable for most of the SSCs.
Right.
Absolutely.
Sanjay, can you hear us?
What I'm able to understand, they are trying to bring into ambit even the payment part also.
Can I join?
Yes, Sanjay, yes, sir. We are waiting for you.
See, here in this particular serial number BD, they have asked us what? Particulars of each payment made in the amount exceeding the limit specified in section 269 ST. So the tax auditor does not have any scope to see whether that section is applicable or not. It is only to report whether there has been a payment more than 2 lakh of rupees, because 2 lakh has been mentioned. It is the question is not whether 269 ST is applicable or not.
So Sanjay, what will be the purpose of reporting over here when nothing will be disallowed in our hand? Then what will be the purpose?
मैं वो पेनल्टी लगाने के लिए है कि अगर अपने कुछ रिपोर्ट कर दें.
Why they are asking it for making a cross analysis. Please keep in mind that where there is a reference just made, that doesn't mean whether it is applicable or not. Here only the reporting by the tax auditor is required so that they can make a cross verification receiving the amount. So I think a tax auditor will have the duty to mention, irrespective of the fact whether that amount has already been mentioned in 48.3 or not.
Correct.
So that means, sir, ki you want to say ki it is for the person who is making the payment, that person is required to report, or the person who is receiving the payment is required to report here?
Yes, because the tax auditor, when he reports that so and So as Priya, as
I think we can't hear Sanjay Da.
Hello.
I'll just check if he's there or not.
He's there, but
Yeah, he's there.
yes, the line is this: what
Yeah.
extent reporting will be made? Whether 269T is applicable or not is not the question. It is only for a cross verification.
Okay.
So Sanjay, in your opinion, it should be reported, right? I mean, any payment that I make, it will be reported,
Yes.
irrespective of its goods or services or immovable property, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you, Sanjay
Yeah,
Da.
Ashish Bhaiya,
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was quite enlightening. But it is very difficult to report everything. Yeah.
कैश बुक से उठा लेना पड़ेगा.
हाँ, कैश बुक ही है पूरा.
एक्चुअली वो कैश मतलब गवर्नमेंट का इंटेंट नटसेल में ये हो रहा है कि कैश ट्रांजैक्शन को मिनिमाइज करके 5 करोड़ तक का टैक्स लिमिट जो है वो पेमेंट और एक्सपेंडिचर दोनों को कवर कर लेना है.
हाँ भैया, लेकिन इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि बहुत सारे इनएडवर्टेंट ट्रांजैक्शंस भी इसमें कवर हो जा रहे हैं.
एक क्वेश्चन है. अभी आई वाज ऑडिटिंग वन कंपनी. वहां पे एक ऐसा था कि एक होटल बिल था, ठीक है. वो होटल बिल था 1,10,000 रुपया का, 1,10,000 से 1,20,000 रुपया का, ठीक है. आई नो द ट्रांजैक्शन इज नॉट करेक्ट. बेसिकली 10 पेमेंट दिखाया हुआ है, 10 से 11 पेमेंट दिखाया हुआ है, 9,000, 9,500, 9,000, 9,500 करके 1,10,000 रुपया पेमेंट किया हुआ है, ठीक है. What should be the reporting in that case? Whether it should be reported over here, जैसे अपने बात कर रहे हैं, या मतलब वो खर्चा का पेमेंट है 1,10,000 रुपया, ठीक है. 2 लाख रुपया से कम है. यहाँ पे जो लिमिट था दैट वाज 2 लाख रुपीस, राइट?
2 लाख का लिमिट है ना यार, 2 लाख का लिमिट है.
यहाँ पे 2 लाख रुपया लिमिट है. बट क्या वो रिपोर्ट होएगा या रिपोर्ट नहीं होएगा?
क्योंकि यहाँ पे बोल रहा है ना एक्सीडिंग द लिमिट स्पेसिफाइड अंडर सेक्शन 216 एसटी.
तो 216 एसटी में 2 लाख रुपया है ना,
राइट?
ठीक है. और एक जगह 20,000 रुपया था ना, वो कहाँ पे था?
10,000, 20,000 नहीं है,
20,000 कहीं नहीं है
ना. 20,000 269 एसएस और टीम, एसएस और में टी में था.
एसएस और टी में था, राइट. तो एसएस और टी खाली पैसा लेने का बात करता है, 269 टी तो देने का बात करता है वापस.
करेक्ट. हाँ.
फिर क्या एक ट्रांजैक्शन रिपोर्ट होएगा?
बट भैया
आपका जो रेस्टोरेंट का केस है, रेस्टोरेंट का तो वो एक्सपेंडिचर हो गया, तो वो तो आपका फिर 48
लोन एंड डिपॉजिट के लिए है ना भैया. दिस इज फॉर लोन एंड डिपॉजिट पर्टिकुलर.
आपका तो एक्सपेंडिचर हो गया 48 तो
अदरवाइज में नहीं आएगा ना ये.
एंड स्पेसिफाइड सम जो है ना, wherever the specified sum has been mentioned, it is pertaining to ये
immovable property.
It says it is immovable property only. Specified sum is pertaining to immovable property only.
ठीक है. तो इसमें तो नहीं आएगा, राइट? ठीक है. ओके, थैंक यू. ठीक है. पुष्प, यू कैन मूव अहेड. ये वाला पॉइंट 31 खत्म हो गया या क्या चीज? पुष्प पॉइंट 31
कम आ जाएगा कैश एक्सपेंडिचर.
हाँ, वो ठीक है, वो उसमें आ जाएगा.
हाँ,
ठीक है. यू कैन कंटिन्यू. पुष्प 31 खत्म हो गया पॉइंट, या यू आर एडिंग समथिंग?
नहीं, 31 is to this only. मतलब मेरे ये सब कुछ points थे which I felt are very important to discuss.
Okay. So friends, we've completed 31 points. I thank Pushp for doing a wonderful job. So from here on, Shivank will take over. Shivank Chapadia. So Shivank, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I request Push to continue with the screen sharing. That will be easier for all of us to follow.
Yeah, I'll just. Should I make you the co-host if you want to say or share the screen? Shivank?
We can continue with the same screen share. That's perfectly okay. We can
Okay,
continue with the same screen share. Okay. So the next few clauses, I would also like to deliberate on certain judicial pronouncements also, since judicial pronouncements can definitely be referred at the time of making judgment whether a particular reporting should be done or otherwise. And we can also follow the particular judgment for the purpose of making a particular assumption or an observation. Sir, is my video on?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
So clause number 32 is reporting for brought forward of loss depreciation allowance. Now this could be something that one can refer very easily from the income tax return that have already been filed for the particular assessee. So the filed returns can be referred for this purpose. I would like to make two important observations for this particular clause. Number one, for companies which are opting for 115 BAA. Now for those domestic companies opting for BAA, the clause will gain much more significance for the purpose of claiming their depreciation and brought forward losses of previous years. For those tax, for assessee being a domestic company opting for 115 BAA, the tax auditor must ensure that there is a complete sync with the previous returns that the assessee is opting to claim. So one will be required to definitely follow for those specific segment of assessees. I would also like to refer a particular recent judgment by Mumbai Tribunal in case of JSW Steel, where the depreciation claim on increased WDV of fixed assets was transferred on amalgamation. What happened particularly in this case was the assessee claimed a higher WDV on the unabsorbed depreciation claim of the amalgamating company. So the amalgamated company claimed a higher WDV on the depreciation allowance. So this was also allowed. This particular judgment may be referred in amalgamation cases for those tax set of assessees also. Can we just go down the below clauses? Clause number 33. Do we have some views on clause 32 before we move on 33?
I think we're good.
Okay, clause 33 was on deductions on chapter 6A and 10A. So one can refer to separate tax audit reports, separate audit reports, for example, for 80IA, IC, if those were applicable for those years, 80 JJAA, an important deduction that is being claimed in case of new employment, additional employee cost. So one may refer to those particular deductions in the specific audit report that has been prepared or a certificate from CA, and then reporting may be done in this particular clause. For chapter 6 items also, one can refer to the certificates that has been issued. For example, let's say a particular donation has been made. So those certificates will also be of help in this segment. Clause 34, one of the most important clauses applicable to the assessees on TDS reporting. Now this particular series of clause often has seen maximum cases of non-compliance. I would like to share certain instances that we had come across in a large number of assessees. A particular TDS payment for a particular month, apart from March, is required to be made on the 7th of the subsequent month. For a particular quarter, the TDS return is to be filed. For the sake of ensuring that the particular TDS payment has been made without subjecting themselves to any interest or for late payment, at times the assessee, they manipulate on the dates. The deductee will not lose out on the tax credit because in any case for the particular quarter the tax credit is being availed. Neither will that affect the deductee's liability. Let's say for example for the quarter, let's say quarter 3, October, September, October, November, December, a particular invoice is dated, let's say 27th October. Payment due date would fall on 7th November. But to ensure non-compliance, and let's say payment is made on, let's say 10th November, we are seeing that the taxpayer has changed it on 27th October to 1st November. This is more prevalent in cases where the invoices are towards the end of the month. So the taxpayer avoids the liability and ensures the TDS return is also smoothly processed. Such reporting, should it qualify, should it be reported in the audit report? If we see what these clauses A, B, and C are asking us to report, clause 34A is on whether the assessee is required to deduct or collect tax and the amounts therefore we refer. For example, let's say the amount under section, let's say 194J, 194C, what is the amount of deduction, what is the deductible amount. So we refer on those clauses. Clause B is on the due dates where we mentioned of a particular deductor. And clause C is on any interest liability that has been discharged by the deductor assessee. My query here is whether we will be reporting such non-compliances also. In the same example, let's say 27th October invoice was raised, payment was made on 10th November, but the assessee has manipulated the date for the sake of ensuring that the interest liability does not accrue on the deductor. I would like to open this query before the members. What are their views on this subject?
Sanjay, what do you think? What is your opinion? Sanjay, can you hear us? Ashish Bhaiya?
Hello.
Yes, Bhaiya.
Hello. No, I'm Pushpadeep. If I may speak, I have a few observations regarding this only. So TDS is required to be deducted on the earlier, or TCS has to be is required to be added on the earlier of credit or receipt. So I believe since the amount had to be debited earlier, it was supposed to be debited earlier. So debited or payment earlier of amount when it has been debited or paid. So since the amount had been sorry, so since the amount had been debited earlier, it had accrued earlier. Therefore, I believe the liability arises on that date itself.
Correct.
Even though
Push,
it has later on.
You're absolutely right, Push, in that aspect. So what I have a question, Shivang. What happens if the assessee says that I got the invoice late?
That is also a very pertinent issue.
Yeah, because that is what happens practically. The date of invoice in a lot of cases is say May, for example. ठीक है, वो book करके रखा है अक्टूबर में, बोलता है मेरे को सामने वाला invoice ही नहीं दिया. ठीक है, I got the invoice in October and I made the payment in November. Yeah, October. Either ways. ठीक है. So what as an auditor, what do you do in that cases? In those cases?
In those cases, we generally see that the taxpayer has followed the date or receipt of the invoice. So that's why the invoice is received in the month of November. So definitely they will not put a backdated entry. They will put the current date entry, and they will make the provision for the amount that has to be paid and necessary accounting. This is a particular okay case, which does not require any particular observation because this is a very genuine matter.
Right.
What I'm trying to invite the attention of our members is, what if 27th October we are having a particular invoice, service was rendered, deduction was required and payment was required to be made by 7th November. The taxpayer has deliberately made the date, changed the date to 1st November just to avoid the interest liability. What I have seen in this particular clause, from the bare reading of these clauses, 34A, B, and C, nowhere are we supposed to check on this particular aspect.
Correct.
So, in a way, yes, the taxpayer will get the benefit of doubt or can actually get away with. This clause A, B, and C are very specific in the requirement. A is on the amount that was required to be deducted, section, and the particular payment that has been made by the deductor. Based on all the TDS returns that has been filed by the deductor assessee, and clause C is on any interest liability. So as a tax auditor, well, yes, we need to refer the books of accounts. What is the TDS amount that is required to be deducted and paid? So we can make our evaluations and accordingly report. But in those specific cases, the deductor assessee will get the benefit of doubt.
I have
Can you move to point C? Can you move to point C? I just want to read what's written there. So Shivang, what you were saying, can we not, say that the assessee was liable to pay interest?
Effectively, yes, the assessee was liable to pay interest, but in this case, the TDS return that was filed by the deductor assessee, in that case, they have mentioned that the invoice date was 1st November. So in that case, they have got away with the liability of interest, and they have actually, the TDS return has been processed, let's say, without any default.
Right. Okay.
Here, one more question. Here we have to report full years, whatever TDS has come in the books, right? Or post, suppose during our audit, if we find out some expenses on which TDS is not deducted, so that also we need to report.
Yes. So what we essentially report here is all such expenses incurred for the financial year, for a particular, let's say during course of audit, let's say ongoing audit, you identify that during some expenses prevailing to last year has not been deducted and paid. You intimate the deductor assessee, and they make the necessary payment after and file a correction return also. So in that case, that particular expense, since pertaining to a financial year that has already that you're auditing, that will actually be a part of clause A. Correction return will be reported in clause B, and interest on that interest liability that has been liable to be discharged will be reported in clause C. So effectively, such an observation will hit all three clauses.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
I have an interesting observation for particularly TDS section. Like it is not relevant for a tax audit, but it is relevant for TDS. Suppose an individual who's under presumptive taxation, and say he is declaring 10% as his income, and he has a business and he's been paying salary. Is such salary liable to be? Are we liable to deduct TDS on such salary? What is the view of the house? Because I feel it is a very interesting case study, wherein a person who's under presumptive taxation is paying salary, and is he liable to deduct TDS?
I think yes. Why not? I mean, why is he different? Because the act, or I mean, nowhere in the provision as it said that.
Right.
Pardon?
He's not supposed to maintain any books of accounts. He's under presumptive taxation, and therefore he's not supposed to get audited. But he's paying salary. So is he supposed to deduct TDS on such salary?
Not supposed to be audited. Then I mean, do we conduct this income tax audit? I mean, tax audit.
No, I said before, I posed this observation, like it is not relevant for a tax audit, but it is relevant for TDS section, for study of TDS section. What I came across was when under section 192 is indifferent. Section 192, under which we deduct TDS for payment of salary, it is indifferent of whether you're under presumptive taxation or whether you're an individual who's not supposed to be audited. These exceptions do not apply to section 192. So we have to deduct TDS on even if we do not have to maintain books of accounts under section, and we are under presumptive taxation.
Right. Shivang, what do you think? What is your opinion?
Well, ideally, TDS will be liable to be deducted, but the question here is that the compliances, how will given that the assessee has opted for presumptive taxation, so how will the taxpayer? Ideally, yes, TDS will be deducted, but yes, then the tax deductor would be required to follow the compliances also, and then fall in the purview of all those requirements of interest payment also in case there is any non-compliance. Everything has to be done in place.
Okay. Any other views?
I need to understand one thing, is that you clarify one thing is this: if you go to 34A, which says that the total amount of the payment or receipt of the nature specified. Like for example, if there is a printing stationery expenses on which there is some contract on which TDS is required to be deducted. Now, are we required in this column number 4? Are we required to make the entire payment which has been made in which we are debiting to profit loss account? Like printing stationery, there are umpteen number of heads on which can come under contract. So, are we reporting the entire expenses which is debited to the profit loss? But are we reporting the entire payment in column number 4? Or are we just only reporting?
We are reporting expenses which are subject to TDS.
Like for example, irrespective of whether it is even if there is some purchase of printing and stationery, that is also being debited to printing and stationery, and even if you have given a contract, so we are giving the entire amount of printing stationery in column number 4.
I have a different opinion on this, Bhaiya. I think what we do is, I mean, so suppose I'm paying salary to say 20 employees, 15 employees I'm deducting TDS, and 5 employees are not subject to TDS. So in the salary amount, I will show the entire, 20 people salary that I'm paying, because it says that total amount of payment made, in that nature. So in that nature of salary, I'm paying 20 people.
Salary to Frank is easy, but what I'm saying is that there are, say example, there are 100 heads in the profit loss account.
I understand your point, yeah.
Which can come under contract. So that means the entire amount is required to be reported. The entire amount of, like for example, if it is simply printing stationery, for that matter, any head can come under contract.
I understood, yeah.
I think what the department wants us to do here is reconcile PL with this format here, like how much amount has been debited in PL and how much of it was on which TDS was deductible, or of that nature, or of the similar nature. I think that is the intent. I think we have to put all of the expense. We have to make a kind of a reconciliation. This was this was the commission expense in total. Well, I'm just giving you easy examples. I understand 194C may there can be thousands of examples with thousands of expenses, and it would be very difficult to reconcile. But I think intent behind it is to put all expenses of similar nature in that head in column number 4.
And then what is the significance of this word receipt? Like for example, total payment or receipt. That means that whatever is TDS is deducted on me also, that is also required to be reported here. Like it's saying total amount of payment or receipt of the nature specified. So going by that example of the 216 ST, which says that ki wo jo bola tha ki 216 says ST is in respect of receipt, but a conclusion can be drawn ki it is also in respect of payment. So here we are required to give that also jo humko mil raha hai rupiya income.
Actually, the questions that you are coming up with, I would like to refer one of the very important line that has been mentioned in the guidance note. The first line is, while reporting under this clause, the tax auditor may exercise his judgment in light of the applicable laws and report accordingly about the applicability of the provisions of chapter 17B and 17BB. So are we discussing, let's say payment like for example, all such payment example, let's say electricity or stationery, those expenses are not covered under chapter 17B or chapter 17BB. So those, since the chapter is not applicable in the very first place, we need not refer to those parts. And same in the case of let's say 216 ST also the point. So we really need to stick to this particular chapter and payments that have been discussed in those chapters. So basically, we're referring to only those payments and receipts which are governed by this particular chapter.
But Ashish, what Ashish is trying to say is that payment under which are in the nature of 194C, which are contractual in nature, many of those expenses it is very difficult to identify. Difficult to identify those which would not be deductible, those which would be deductible, particularly from P&L account when there are hundreds of heads, which are, isn't it? Am I right, Ashish?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. So I think Ashish, in that case, I think whatever items you think you can put, it's best advice that you put that. And if you think that something is immaterial, for example, there are 100 heads and there are some expenses on which TDS is not deducted and it is immaterial. So I think we can leave that because SEB उसपे liability नहीं था, so there is no problem as such. But जहाँ पे आप कर सकते हो, for example, जैसे सैलरी हो गया, 194J हो गया, वहां पे
कमीशन हो गया,
probably you
उसमें तो हो ही
can
सकता
take
है
care of
बस।
that. That is what I feel. That is what I feel.
ठीक है।
So let's move on to clause 35. Do we have some more views on 34 to discuss?
I have just one view for 34B, wherein it states that whether the statement of tax deducted or collected contains all information about all details of the transaction. I think because it talks about all details, I think we should only report the revised returns here, not the other returns, which were older returns. I think need not be reported, only the latest revised returns should be reported. If an assessee has revised a return 20 times, then only the 20th return should be reported here, I feel, in my view. Because it talks about whether it contains all the details and transactions which are required to be reported. But yeah, but this is the only observation that I had. We can move on.
Okay, thank you. So clause 35 on quantifying of inventory items. So over here, one very significant observation could be relating to, let's say, if there's any case of shortage or a theft that has been declared, and accordingly GST reversal has taken place. So one may actually refer to that particular segment. I would like to refer to shortage or excess, if any. Clause B, raw materials. Point number 8, shortage or excess, if any. This is one point is extremely important. We can check from the accounts of the assessee if there is any shortage or excess that they are declaring. So number one, GST reversal that should take place, which is a separate aspect, and that has to be reported here. One significant observation one should definitely refer from the books of accounts. Apart from this, it is a common practice to obtain an MRL from the taxpayer, but the MRL should be in sync with what the reasonable, the figures should be from the, sales and the purchases that the taxpayer has stated. So at times we have seen that, certified by the proprietor, certified by the partner, or as per the MRL, we find that they have mentioned that such amount of inventory is as per 31st March. So the taxpayer should definitely follow a mindfulness and application of mind in this case and verify that whether those balances could be correct or not. If there has been an inventory audit or stock taking at the year end, then that will help in quantifying the figures even better from an independent valuer. In case of heterogeneous mix of products, it will become extremely difficult to specify the quantities. So in this such case, the auditor may also refrain from reporting because it becomes a matter of a professional judgment how you will qualify for different items. For example, an inventory of 2,000 unique items could be there for a trading concern. So a view can be taken that they may refrain from making any observation in this regard, and instead of quantifying, a note can be given that we have not taken up this exercise because of heterogeneous mix of inventory that is being maintained. What are the views of all our members?
I think on shortage, one thing would be very important is next year when we are conducting a tax audit for financial year 2021, we should keep in mind 20th of May when Amphan had happened. I think that would be important for assessees here. We should keep in mind whether there have been any shortages or excesses. I think that would
very true.
I think we need to, again follow the concept of materiality. So if we think that something we can't say that we've not done the inventory reconciliation at all, right? I mean, can we? Is that possible? Am I audible?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So I mean, how do we go about it? I mean, in manufacturing concerns, there are certain things that it's not possible for us to verify in terms of stock, right? So whatever value the company gives us, we are bound to take that as closing stock. right? Even the quantities, because physical verification is also not possible at all times. So how do you take care of that? I mean,
So
you
as
just
I said
follow
that
the concept of materiality and give the important stocks which constitute say 80-85% of your closing stock.
that you can also be taken, that we can mention that the high value items or the items which are more easily available, or as in this subject would require much of judgment from the auditor. High value items can be considered. A particular basis can also be applied. For example, the items which are primarily, let's say, hot selling for the particular trading concern or manufacturing concern. So those particular items can be taken up. A list can be obtained from the concern, and those particular items can be referred to. So one may, take, apply those combination while reporting.
Okay, I think we can move forward.
Okay, clause number 36, which is on DDT. Now this can be referred from the annual accounts, where one can check the date of declaration, the amount of dividend DDT that is ascertainable from the DDT deposit date within 14 days, and deposit to the escrow account. So those points can be referred. Annual accounts could be the best source for this purpose. Quite basic observation for this one. 36A, deemed dividend. So deemed dividend, there's a host of judicial pronouncements in 36A. 3 years back, we also had a CBDT circular, which clarified that trade advance or trade loans in the nature of commercial transactions will not fall under 222E. So deemed dividend is one particular section, one where the auditor would need to apply, let's say, certain judicial pronouncements and follow those pronouncements to a report for this purpose. Reference cash flow.
And I'll just interrupt. Can you share, a couple of judicial pronouncements with us? I mean, if you can write it in the chat box also, it'll be fine, so that all of us can refer that.
I would just like to refer, some cases which I had referred some time back. Let's say definition of shareholder. So who constitutes the shareholder? Let's say whether a loan to a shareholder would also qualify or not. So 222 is very clear on this aspect, that shareholder would also qualify for the purpose of 222E. So in that case also reporting would be required. This is also a violation of 222E.
So are you practically reporting this? I mean, is it practically possible to report these transactions?
In cases where this is extremely apparent that yes, the violation has taken place and where there cannot be two views, I believe yes, the reporting should be made. But where there can be where the taxpayer is able to identify that it is the nature of trade advance. For example, there are two concerns X and Y, and there is regular trading and purchase and sale taking place between the entities, and these transactions are taking place, let's say, at arm's length also. For a particular transaction, let's say advance has been paid by one entity to a second entity. In those cases, trade advance benefit as per the CBDT circular may be given.
Okay. Suppose I'm charging interest on the loan that I am giving. In that case, 222E, does it attract, or if I'm charging interest, then I don't need to report anything?
Well, there are also a host of judicial pronouncements, whether charging of interest, repayment of loan will have no bearing on 222E. Like we have Walchand and Sons Supreme Court case, which says that repayment of loan also does not change the position. 222E is triggered. Interest amount is also something which has been an issue of much debate. What would be the rate of interest? So, in spite of interest or non-interest bearing, if any amount has been which has been paid to those set of entities, director, shareholder holding substantial interest, a related concern, so in those cases 222E is triggered. One may refer to the judicial pronouncement and the CBDT circular which came 3 years back, just to see if there could be any other view that the courts have taken, and the CBDT circular has given us the relaxation. In those cases, yes, reference should be made.
Okay, thank you.
Clause 37, 38, and 39. These three clauses, 37 is on cost audit report, 38 is on central excise, and clause 39 is on service tax. So in those three, all the three clauses, one may refer to the audit report that has been prepared. Now, in case of cost audit report, the extension was yesterday given by the NCA at 31st December. It might not be possible to refer, but in case those taxpayers where cost audit has taken place and the audit report is available, it could be a good reference. 30 and 39 talks about the central excise and finance service tax, which has now been replaced with GST audit. Now, the question is whether the GST audit has been completed or not, which is very unlikely. In case it has been, then one should definitely refer for any qualifications. That will be a good source of reference for other clauses also that can be discussed. For example, let's say on the CENVAT credit amount which we were discussing in clause number 27. So one may refer in case the GST audit has taken place. Clause number 40 is on accounting ratios. Now the guidance note has been very clear on that these ratios are not to be calculated in case of a service provider. So we have the manufacturing and the trading concerns for clause 40. The fifth ratio is not required for a trading concern. So we have the other ratios for the trading concern, and a manufacturing concern would be required to calculate all the 5 ratios. Guidance note has also clarified here that the stock in trade by turnover ratio, that means the fifth one for the manufacturing concerns, we take only closing stock. For some set of assessees we had seen where it was the first year of audit, the previous auditor had taken the average of closing stock and opening stock. The guidance note is very clear that we take the closing stock. So one must stick to the guidance note in this aspect. This closing stock figure will be exclusive of store parts and loose tools. It's very common for a manufacturing concern to have an inventory which consists of such store part and loose tools. So calculation must be restricted to the finished goods only. These ratios can be easily calculated from the audited accounts. In some certain cases, we see that the first year of operation is taking place. So we clearly mention a note that the previous year figures have been reported at nil values owing to the first year of operation. So we have some any views on these clauses also?
No, I think we are good in this.
Okay. Now, clause 41 is on the details of demand raised and refund issued. Now, this is a very this clause firstly requires that we take an MRL from the deductor, from the assessee, to understand what has been the pending litigation for that particular assessee. Based on the MRL, we may refer to the refund order, any demand order that has taken place, and accordingly make our observations and our reporting in this particular clause. Clause 41 largely depends on the information that has been provided to us from the assessee. Next clause, please. Clause 42. Reporting for furnishing 61, 61A, 61B. So if we have any member who would like to discuss on this particular clause 42 and throw some light.
Vikas, will you take this up? Vikas, are you there? I'm not sure Bhaiya can hear us. So I think this point we can, in 26 years also they give us the details of such transactions. So we can take a hint from there, as well as if the assessee has filed or not, we can see from the income tax website, right? So we can probably download that as well, and just cross check and cross verify whether this reporting has been done or not. That is my view.
Okay.
Any other views? Push, Shivank, what do you think? What do you guys think?
Firstly, if very limited, we have seen in our cases that where the requirement of reporting is required in this one. So we
Correct.
haven't really got the opportunity to refer to this particular segment for audit purposes. We have seen certain cases where reporting was required. So, but we haven't really conducted any
Practically
reporting, yes, for our clients.
Right. I think I've also not reported anything as such as of now. Push, you were saying something?
I was saying practically we've not seen anything as such, like reporting
Yeah.
under
Yeah.
as of
Right.
now.
I think we'll move to the next point.
Now for clause 43, clause 43 and 44. Clause 44 has been kept in abeyance for reporting.
44 is not applicable. Correct.
Yes, 44 is not applicable. 43, do we have any member who can throw light if they have reported in clause 43 also till now?
I don't think 43 is applicable in most of the cases. So it's yeah. Vikas, yeah.
Yes, right, Priyank. Priyank, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
You rightly
So
pointed out.
43. So 43, I don't think most cases may applicable hota hai, right? I mean,
Yes.
Right. Okay. I think we've covered all the points here. Tax audit ka 44 points done.
Sanjay, can you hear us?
I tried Sanjay, but yeah.
संजय दा का वीडियो ऑन है लेकिन लगता है उनका
हाँ वो म्यूट पे है and I'm not sure if he's able to hear us.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes. You want me to say something?
Yes,
Sanjay,
Sanjay.
if you can add on to something.
Right, sir.
You see, just I am touching 2 or 3 items. When we were discussing about serial number 26, which is regarding 43B, one point I think it would be referred to, but it was not. That is that particular query that has been made without there being any serial number. Just after 26 and just between 26 and 27, there is one very important query. And that query is that whether the indirect taxes are passed through the profit and loss account. The importance of that clause one should understand. I'm giving you an example. Many of the people, they create separate accounts for indirect taxes, be it VAT or sales tax or GST or whatever, service tax, whatever it is. And when they collect it, they credit that account is as a liability and they pay that is going out of that. And some of the people, they include this GST, service tax, sales tax, whatever it is in their profit and loss account. So these are shown in their income and the payments are also debited there. Why this question is asked? If it is of the second category, no problem. Because the earnings are considered and the payments are also considered. But when it is in this first category, that means these taxes, when recovered, are shown in liabilities account, and when paid, that is paid off from that liabilities account. It may so happen that on 28th March, I have collected some sales tax or GST or something like that, and I put in that liability account, which was to be paid by me to the credit of the central government, but I don't pay it within the due date of filing of the return. Now, some people may have this confusion that whether that will be a disallowable item under section 43B. It is. It is a disallowable item under section 43B. because after the Chowdhury Sales Bureau case, it has been decided that it was decided at that point of time that any indirect tax collected would be a part of the turnover. Only on that basis, this particular clause is there. That's why you may find that VAT, GST, service tax, they come in the consideration of this item number 26. My number 2 observation is this, that when we were discussing about 27A and 27B, I think Mr. Chaparia asked, what is the connection between those? There is no need of a connection. It is just 27A and 27B. There cannot be any connection. Don't any chartered accountant or any tax practitioner or even any tax auditor, naturally, they don't have the right to see what has been included where. Then the very first question that should come to their mind, that how in this tax audit report questions can be asked about the applicability of section 56 to Roman 10. Why we will be asked to give the deductions under chapter 6A when that has got no connection with the business. I in principle follow, let me tell, when I sign any tax audit report, I mention in the chapter 6A only those deductions if claimed which have got direct relationship with the business or professional income. I never write 80C, 80G, though I may have those information. What I do to save my scheme in 3CA or 3CB at that allotted space, which is a God-sent item for the chartered accountant, there I mention that in reporting that serial number, any deduction that may have been claimed, which in respect of any income or expenditure which do not have any relationship with the business or profession, are not reported here. And another point that I already told, that whenever there is a reference made to any amount mentioned in any of the section, it is not the duty of the chartered accountant making the tax audit to see whether that clause is applicable here. Here only a reference has been made, so we have to give that reporting. These are my observations as regards today. But in another point also, when we were discussing about that 27A, about that central SENVAT credit and all these things, keep in your mind what answers have been given in serial number 14 when we were asked as the chartered accountant tax auditor that whether section 145A has been properly complied with. Number 2, in respect of ICDS also, it has been asked of us whether ICDS number 2 has been duly complied with. So keep those in mind. And on that basis, only come to 27A. Now the point is, in 27 small a, they have asked for the SENVAT credit, which is no more there. It is now GST. Can we, the question is, can we put that GST input there? According to me, we should not. But what we should do, we should write in that space available in 3CA 3B that since SENVAT has been asked, no information is being reported as regards GST input, so that we are free. And last point that I just wanted to mention, though it has not been discussed today, but I think it was discussed in the previous point. It was in relation to that item number 21. You know that there are several sub-serial numbers under 21. One of them is about the club expenses. Please keep in your mind that up to assessment year 2017-18, this item number 21 started with this item that if debited in profit and loss account, then all this ABCD, EFGH, everything was asked. But they have changed it. It is only in 21 small a that if debited in profit and loss account has been asked, not in other. So 2 issues that I just want to say, I will take only 1.5 minutes. First of all, contingent liability, they have asked at some sub-serial number. I think it is 21. I will come to the first portion second, because that is more important. It is in 21.
G, I think, if I'm not wrong.
21 small, I am telling you, this 10,
Sir,
20,
G.
G for Goa.
21G.
21G. Now you see what they have asked. Particulars of any liability of a contingent nature. Very unfortunately, in our ICAI guidelines, they have advised us if only debited to the profit and loss account, then it should be reported. I am not agreeing with that because here they have not asked us. So what should be my advice? My advice is this: if there is a contingent liability reported in the notes of account, give it there. And when you are giving the details, we should write not debited to the profit and loss account. This is number one. And at the beginning of 21, there are requirements of reporting club expenses. Here, what is the heading? Just see what is the heading of 21 small a. The heading is this: furnish details of amounts debited to the profit and loss account being in the nature of capital, personal, advertisement, expenditure, etc. The moment I am writing this club expenses, that means as a tax auditor, I am telling that these are all personal expenses. And some of you may have this experience that CPC Bangalore used to write that why you have not disallowed it. The point is, what I advise and I follow, that I always write their nil if the auditee proves that these are all corporate membership which are being spent only for business purposes. I take the shelter of that space in form number 3C and 3CB. There I write the club expenses of so and so being in the nature of business expenditure have not been reported there. These are my views. I don't know whether it will have any good effect on you or not. But I have shared it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Sanjay. Thank you so much. I think
Thank
all
you,
your
Sanjay. Thank you, Sanjay.
Only enlighten us. There is nothing that you will say that will not increase our knowledge. So yes,
That is very good. I have heard Rungta last day and today also Chaparia. Can I ask you a question, Mr. S.K. Chaparia? Are you related to our Krishna Kumar?
Yes, he is my uncle.
Oh, I see. That's good. I know about Rungta. He's son of my friend Pramod. That I'm sure about. I know it. Congratulations to both of you, Rungta for your yesterday and today, and Mr. Chaparia for today, for trying to explain the items. But can I advise you something?
Yes, sir. Please do. Please do. Please.
See, as a senior, because I am 72 years old, I think I have the right to advise you.
So always, always.
See, when you should discuss this type of things, whether it is 3CD or form number 29B or anything, the chartered accountants or the persons who are hearing, they are usually also bank audit. They are always eager to know what should be our procedure to be filed. It is not what the law says, but what should be our procedure. So my advice to you, both of my young friends, that whenever you are telling these type of things, when you are discussing, you please try to say what are your advices. I am giving one example. I am giving two examples. Priyank, can I? Or I should stop?
No, sir, please continue.
I don't have any right to tell you or ask you to stop. You definitely should give advice.
Number one, as regards the question, as regards section 40A, subsection clause 3, which requires us to report whether there has been a payment exceeding 10,000 rupees otherwise than by account pay check or bank. Now, naturally, the persons who are doing this thing will be eager to know what are the views of Chaparia or what are the views of Rungta, how should we proceed? What I do, I can say. I ask my assistants two things. First of all, give a glance to, if it is computerized, give a glance to the cash book and find out where there is a payment of more than 10,000 shown as cash. Because if more than 10,000 is shown in bank, you can't understand whether it is bearer or not. Then I tell, ask the auditee to supply you the copies of bank statements and find out whether the bearer checks are being shown there as CSH, but that means cash. Whether they are making a separate type of nomenclature, CLG and CSH. The moment you find CSH, find out those. Why I tell? Because otherwise what will happen? Now it will no more happen because of faceless assessments, but it could have happened that the assessing officer will call the chartered accountant and say that why didn't you check this bank statement? You could have seen yourself that these payments of 20,000, 25,000, they are mentioned as CSH, but under bank column. So at least this precaution should be taken. This is number one. Number two, as regards clause number 34A, small a, that is the TDS requirement, which is a very, very important and dangerous thing. Now you see, you see what I advise, because for a big concern, it is not possible to check all the things. You know that. So what I advise, the select 15-day period, a month in the first 6 months and a 15-day period in the next 6 months. Ask for and in your hand you keep all the quarterly in your space in 3CA or 3CB, wherever you are making a random sampling and checking, right there, clause number, serial number, so, these reportings have been done on the basis of test checkings in view of the vast transactions that had taken place. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being patiently listening to us for the session. I was noticing you've been present since the first minute. So thank you for patiently listening to us.
And in the last session as well. I mean, 2 hours in the last session and 2 hours today. And I think more than that, I really thank Sanjay Da for his advice. I mean, he's taken the liberty. He has all the right in this world to, guide all of us, because his, practical experience is twice the practical experience of the three of us combined. So definitely, I mean, we cannot question that. Thank you so much, Sanjay Da.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay Da. Thank you, Sanjay Da, for your sharing your views on 3CD. Thank you, Sanjay Da. And now I request Priyank to kindly vote the general vote on our behalf to both the speaker and all the participants.
Thank you so much, Pushp. I'll start with you for being hosting this thing wonderfully, both in the last session and today. You've been wonderful. I wish you all the very best for all the future group discussions that you will have on this platform. Thank you so much, Shivang, for taking us through the end of the tax audit reporting. I'm sure we'll be hearing very soon from you on another topic as we discussed today in the morning. So thank you to both of us, and thank you to all the participants for making this group discussion, lively by contributions from all of you. Ashish Bhaiya was there. I'm not sure if he's still there. Nilima ma'am was there. Ruchita Agarwal ji, for your questions and for your insights, and all the other participants. I'm sorry if I missed out on anyone. And special thanks to Sanjay Da for being the constant, guide and helping hand to all of us, especially to all the youngsters. Thank you so much, Sanjay Da. We, eagerly look forward to hearing from you in all our group discussions. Nilima ma'am, thank you for attending this session. We acknowledge your presence. Thank you so much for that. And
for such a nice session by all the youngsters. I actually came to the session only to see what the youngsters are thinking and doing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. With the support of all of you, experienced campaigners, I'm sure we'll be learning very soon. And so yeah, thank you so much. So I think with this we end. I push. Sorry, I just 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, so this is for you, Pushp. Shivank, one is pending for you. So you will be getting yours soon. And
Thank
thank you so much to both of you. Thank you so much to both of you, and I look forward to hosting you guys again. Thank you so much. Yep.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
Request
next.
and I request all the participants please join on every Wednesday on group discussion in our association and make it lively like you are still making all the programs lively. So
Yeah,
I request
and
all the participants. Yes, Prem, please.
Next Wednesday we are having on GST refunds. So yeah, please do join. We have another young speaker. It is Shubham Khaitan's wife. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. It's Shubham's wife will be taking that session. So I request everyone,
Sneha, her name is Sneha.
Neha, right. So I request all of you to attend. Shivang, Push, especially you guys, please try and be available for that session. It will be a good session. Yeah.
And we will discuss on that day practical issues on claiming the refund from the GST. So and how to file the GST refunds in a practical form on the GST portal. That we all will discuss.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you.
Thank you to all members.
Thank you, Sanjay da.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.